They want to know if I saw that Marshall amps, the Marshall amplifiers, the actual guitar amplifiers were only 5% of their total gross sales in 2023. And the numbers kind of break down very loosely. So again, from this report. So the report was basically saying that the company that now owns Marshall, if you're not familiar, Marshall was sold. The Marshall family still retains, I believe, 25% of Marshall. The company that bought Marshall is the company that was licensing their Bluetooth amplifiers, Bluetooth speakers, and headphones. Now they are the owners of Marshall. And I think I heard some kind of crazy number, like to the tune of $350 million is what they're either worth or are doing in sales. But the point is, they put out this information, maybe to their investors, but also it went public, to basically state that of all the money that came in 2023, it worked something like this. 25% was the headphones, 5% was Marshall amplifiers, that means the tube amplifiers, that means the digital solid state amplifiers, and then the rest was Bluetooth speakers. They wanted everybody to know that they don't plan to stop making guitar amplifiers, even though it's 5%. Now, granted, you were talking about a very big pie now, okay? $350 million. 5% sounds like, oh my God, that's ridiculous, but 5% still means that Marshall's still selling more amplifiers than, 70% of the guitar amplifier companies on the planet Earth. I mean, they're still in the top tiers of building amplifiers. But it brings up an interesting question, and the question was, what does that mean when they say that? One of the things they said in this article that I read was that they believe the Marshall amplifiers, they convey the attitude of the company. In other words, it's a lifestyle brand now, and as long as people still want to be rock stars, they're still going to make guitar amplifiers because people are apparently buying Bluetooth speakers because they want their Bluetooth speaker at home to look like, a rock star's amp. So I understand. There's another interesting thing about it is what really brought up was a secondary question that I thought was interesting. I know Marshall repackaged their studio line to come out with the JTM 45. When I say repackaged, I mean they had another on that series. So they are starting to come out with a couple amps. The studio series now has the 800. They essentially have the Silver Jubilee. They have a Plexi, and then they have the JTM 40, the JTM, right? I don't know if it's 45, it's JTM 20, right? Whatever they're calling it. And so they are producing some product, but really, I don't want to pick on Marshall because if you think about it, Fender hasn't really, and if you think about the last few years, Fender's come out with a guitar almost every month. And you're like, of course they have, but then go, how many amplifiers have they come out with? I mean, they've come out with, they've added to the 68 reissue series a little, like 1 or 2 amps. They came out with the Tone Master series, but the Tone Master series was really pushed in 2019. So that's almost 5 years ago. And of course, they did expand one of the models on that. But when it comes to amplifiers, I can't even say that I'm seeing Fender pumping out 2-3 models a year. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like you'd have to round up to say that. Not even one good new model or series a year of guitar amplifiers. Mesa Boogie's been pumping out a good amount of stuff. Obviously, Gibson just released their new series of guitar amplifiers that are made by Mesa Boogie, but still, it's still pushing out something. So there's something there. What you're really noticing is what we keep seeing. We talked about the fact that 2 rock amps bought divided by 13. So we're seeing, amplifiers. We know Saldana was sold to boutique distribution. And so, that helped keep Saldana alive by another company buying them. A lot of people keep talking about the death of guitar amplifiers, but there's more to the death of guitar amplifiers than just saying, okay, it's going to die. It's going to be interesting, especially when Marshall says that their plan for future is to really push the digital amp market and grow that market. And that basically means affordable. Another thing I was going to point out was look at Paul Reed Smith amps. Paul Reed Smith amps, is still coming out with amps, but definitely think about, they used to make the high-end Archon $2,000 amp. Now they're making a $1,000 one, which is, don't get me wrong, it's really good. It's almost as good as, in my opinion, almost as good as the $2,000 one for half the price. But still, it's just like the MT-15, just like, a lot of things are doing, the Sonzera. It's about making more price affordable product. And, that is a different market than making iconic amplifiers like Marshall did, iconic amplifiers like Fender makes, iconic amplifiers like some of these higher end brands make that really kind of draw the, get us all, excited. This is so crazy. This is going to be amazing. So it's been an interesting article, but more importantly, interesting thing to hear that the amplifiers are such a small market, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Now, that's good news, though. And here's what's funny about this. I had this conversation with actually 2 friends this week who are amplifier boutique, not the brand boutique, but high-end amp owners, builders. And, we were discussing it just freely in a chat. And one of the things we talked about was how they would be glad to get those customers. So it helps them because, one of the things they have to fight is they have to fight that Marshall money. So many people have been buying Plexi amps, $3,000 hand-wired Plexis. I think with Marshall not coming out with anything new and really exciting in the high-end market, and that's really what we're talking about, the high-end market, instead of just making things more affordable. I think, same with Fender, I think it's opening up the boutique realm. So I think we'll see a resurgence of the boutique area of tube amps. I think you're going to see a bunch of smaller builders kind of pop, that and get on your radar because it's getting tough. When you finally want to buy that first high-end tube amp, it's not a lot. The list is pretty short, guys, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. Me personally, as someone who loves tube amplifiers and loves guitars and loves all this stuff, I don't want to see any of this stuff go away. Sunbase says, when will Marshalls make the wall of amp wallpaper? They already do. You can Google that, man. They make wall of amp wallpaper. It exists. I don't know if Marshall's doing it, but you can buy a wall of amp Marshall wallpaper if you Google it. You can do that. No problem. That's what you want. If you enjoyed this podcast clip, you can watch the entire episode by clicking the link in the description or streaming it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. You can also join it live every week, Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I hope to see you there. Until next time, know your gear.